This isn't what it looks like. Yes, it looks like acclaimed director Christopher Nolan collecting an Oscar or an Academy Award.
Thank you.
But this isn't an Academy Award in the competitive sense, because despite being among the most renowned directors of a generation, after 10 films, grossing over $5 billion, Christopher Nolan has never actually won an Oscar. But with the release of Oppenheimer, things feel different. Not only because it seems that Nolan's style has changed, but also because this could very well be the first time we see Christopher Nolan win an Oscar. To understand why Oppenheimer could be Nolan's first Oscar win, I think it's important to consider the films that he's come closest to winning an Oscar with. The most recent, and I think the most likely win, was Dunkirk, which just like Oppenheimer, was a film set in World War II. And this does give it an advantage over Nolan's other films, which are more science fictional or fantastical in nature, such as the Dark Knight trilogy or films like Inception or Interstellar, as the Oscars have failed to nominate many science fiction films historically. In addition, the fact that The Dark Knight wasn't nominated for Best Picture caused an outcry, forcing the Oscars to increase the number of nominations to 10, something that continues today. Now of course Dunkirk didn't end up winning Best Picture or Best Director, as Guillermo del Toro's Shape of Water swept awards. But this doesn't take away from the film by any means, and I actually think the fact that the film was lauded by Quentin Tarantino, who named it as his second best film of the 2010s, speaks more for how good the film was. But the question remains, why was Dunkirk close to winning an Oscar? Why was it so well regarded? And what makes Oppenheimer similar? Well, apart from the fact that both films are set in World War II, the other similarity they share is their non-linear structure. Dunkirk's story is split into 3, 1 week at the mall, 1 day on the sea, and 1 hour in the air. Similarly, Oppenheimer's story is split into 2, the subjective scenes told from Oppenheimer's perspective, and the objective scenes which are told more from the perspective of Lewis Strauss, played by Robert Downey Jr. And just like how Dunkirk was innovative, by splitting the story into 3 perspectives that span over different timelines and converge throughout the course of the film, Oppenheimer takes an innovative approach by distinguishing the subjective and objective scenes with colour and black and white cinematography, which required the development of black and white IMAX 70mm film for the first time. But there are other elements to Oppenheimer which makes it a more likely contender for the Oscar, and which separates it from the rest of Nolan's films. The main distinguishing feature is the fact that the film is a biopic, something that Christopher Nolan has never done before. Following, Memento, Insomnia, and The Prestige can be classified as thrillers. Inception and Interstellar are science fiction films, and the Dark Knight trilogy, Dunkirk, and Tenet are largely action-based films. But Oppenheimer actually isn't Christopher Nolan's first venture into a biopic. Back in 2007, Nolan described how he had written his best ever screenplay about the life of Howard Hughes, who he planned to be portrayed by Jim Carrey.
I'm getting into the Howard Hughes story.
I just saw that today. Go ahead and tell us about that in a second.
Yeah, we just secured the biography by Richard Hack, and it's just such a tremendous story. Seeing Memento, and I just loved it. I just thought that was such an original approach, and just terrific. And we were talking about Howard Hughes, and was very interested in doing the story, and so suddenly it popped into my head, Chris Nolan, this guy I had been thinking about. I just wanted to meet and tell him how much I admired his work. And I went, wow, what a fascinating story for him to tell, because he likes to tell things kind of in a non-linear way. He's very creative. And this is a story that is absolutely ripe for that. It's perfect for that. So I'm just really looking forward to what he does. He's a terrific writer.
Is that the next project?
No, I don't really know.
How far out you don't know when it'll happen?
Don't really know.
However, the film never materialized because Martin Scorsese released The Aviator, another film about Howard Hughes starring Leonardo DiCaprio. Now, the screenplay Nolan had written actually helped him write Oppenheimer. As with his experience of writing the Howard Hughes screenplay, he knew how to distill a person's life into a feature film script. Another interesting thing about the Oppenheimer script was that parts of it was written in the first person, something that I've never seen before. The reason for this was that Nolan wanted to center the film from Oppenheimer's perspective, something that he told the supporting actors from the start.
And when I read the script, I had never seen this before. It was written in the first person. Never seen that before. And it gave you, as a reader, that visceral, that subjective Oppenheimer experience. So instead of going Oppenheimer across to the window, it says, I walk towards the window. And and it's just had this kind of immediacy and kind of visceral punch. And so you could see what he was trying to communicate to us and to his crew, like, this is what the movie's going to be. And he said, what I need are actors in support of that. This entire thing is going on Cillian's back, and I need you guys to support that, right? And so that was really, that's a great kind of marching order, very, you know, actionable for us and easy to understand. And every day I was like, all right, how can I help that?
And how can I get more lines?
How can I get more lines? So, to be part of a movie that's telling that story with a director who's at the absolute height of his abilities, you know, with a chance to support that performance, which to me is one of the great performances I've ever seen on screen, was thrilling. So. Wow.
This is further showcased by the fact that the film is named Oppenheimer, as opposed to American Prometheus, which is the name of the book that the film is based on. And just to add the cherry on top, another thing that Nolan did different was that he actually considered how to direct the film while writing it, which he doesn't do in his more action-based films, so as not to limit the creativity. But as Oppenheimer's subjectivity and his personal life is so important to this film, the fact that Nolan chose to consider directing while writing it shows how different this film will be from all of Nolan's other films. And with positive reviews already coming out praising the film and calling nominations for Nolan and the top cast being an almost guarantee, combined with the fact that the writer strikes means that several films are going to be delayed until 2024, the chances that Oppenheimer will be Christopher Nolan's first ever Oscar is becoming more and more likely.